That specific feeling, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's arguably the most frustrating feeling in the entire human experience. You've spent hours studying. You have your stack of flashcards. You've drilled the vocabulary list. You've stared at the definitions until your eyes crossed.
You feel completely invincible, like a walking dictionary.
Exactly. You feel like you have these words locked down. You are ready for prime time. But then
Reality hits.
reality hits hard. You're in a conversation. Maybe you're, in a high-stakes meeting, or maybe you're just trying to order coffee without sounding completely confused. And you reach for that specific, sophisticated word you just learned. And it's gone.
Poof.
Poof. Just complete static in your brain.
It's the universal nightmare of language learning. That dreaded tip of the tongue phenomenon. I mean, it happens to the absolutely best of us.
It's the worst. And the kicker is, usually you remember the word exactly 5 minutes after the conversation ends.
Right when you're walking to your car.
Right when you're walking away, and it's completely useless. But why does that happen? That is the mystery we are solving today. We are doing a deep dive into a guide called Proven Ways to Remember English Words Forever.
And honestly, that title, it's making a pretty big promise. Forever is a very, very long time.
It is a massive promise, but the mission of this deep dive is to see if we can actually live up to it. The source material argues that most of us are, we're doing it wrong. We're stuck in this cramming mindset,
Yeah.
trying to stuff as many words as possible into our heads like we're packing a suitcase for a trip we're late for.
That's a great way to put it.
The guide says we need to pivot hard to a quality over quantity approach.
It's fundamentally about shifting your identity as a learner. You have to move from being a collector of words to being an owner of words.
Owning them. I really like that distinction. It feels, more permanent.
It is more permanent. And the core philosophy here is actually quite counterintuitive because, especially in our culture, we are so obsessed with metrics and numbers.
Right, like, I learned 50 words this week. I'm winning.
Exactly. But the source material argues that if you learn those 50 words superficially, you are effectively learning 0 words. It's just a vanity metric. It guarantees you will forget them.
So doing more work is actually achieving less in the long run. It's like filling a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom.
Yes. The guide uses this fantastic analogy of a professional tradesperson, specifically a carpenter. I want you to imagine a carpenter showing up to a job site.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Tool belt on.
Now imagine this carpenter has a gigantic, chaotic toolbox. It is overflowing with hundreds of gadgets, weird saws, specialized wrenches. But he's fumbling around. He barely knows how to hold half of them.
He's digging through the pile just to find a standard screwdriver.
Right, that does not inspire confidence. That's the guy who accidentally puts a hole in your water pipe.
No, I definitely do not want that guy fixing my house.
Now contrast that with a master carpenter. Maybe he walks in with a much smaller curated kit. He has
Right.
fewer tools. But he knows how to use every single one with absolute precision. He knows the weight, the balance, exactly when to use the hammer and when to use the mallet. He could work blindfolded.
That is the person you want building your house. No question.
Precisely. And that is what this guide is saying about vocabulary. Deep engagement with fewer words is the real shortcut to long-term recall. It's about having linguistic tools you can actually use under pressure, not just gadgets you bought, looked at once, and threw in a mental drawer somewhere.
I think that resonates with a lot of people. We all want that master carpenter confidence when we speak. But how do we actually build that toolkit? Because it sounds great in theory, but practically, how do I stop being a word collector and start being a master?
Well, the source breaks this down into 4 distinct strategies.
And the first one is all about selection and contextual detective work.
Contextual detective work. I love that phrasing.
Yeah.
It turns the learner into an investigator.
It sounds active, and I think that's the key shift here.
It is entirely active. The old way, the way we were probably all taught in school, is passive. You see a new word in a text, you immediately open the dictionary, you read the definition, you nod, and you move on.
You think you know it.
But the new way, the way this guide advocates, requires you to hit the brakes.
It says specifically to not look it up yet, which is so hard. The urge to just pull out your phone and Google it is overwhelming.
It's that instant gratification. But the guide says stop. When you encounter a word in the wild, in a book, an article, or listening to someone speak, you need to engage your logical deduction first. You have to try to guess the meaning from the context before you get the answer key.
Because that struggle is what actually creates the memory.
Exactly. It's about cognitive load. If you just look it up, your brain barely registers the event. It's too easy. It's like being a passenger in a car. You zone out. You don't learn the route. But if you have to guess, if you have to look at the surrounding words and piece it together,
You're driving the car.
you're driving the car. You're paying attention to the road.
Let's look at the specific example the source gives, because I think it illustrates this perfectly. It's a relatively simple word, but the process is what matters. The word is endless.
Okay, endless. Let's assume for a moment we have absolutely no idea what this means.
So, you encounter the sentence in a story. She spent endless hours reading books. Now, pretending we are total beginners, walk us through the detective work here. What's going on in the brain?
So you're looking at the clues. First, look at the word itself. You have the root end. We know what an end is, the finish line. And then you have the suffix less.
And even a beginner usually knows less implies without, like hopeless or fearless.
Right, so logically, without end, no end.
Okay, so we have a literal translation going. Then you look at the sentence context. She spent blank hours reading books.
If she spent without end hours reading, what does that imply about the situation? Did she read for 5 minutes?
No.
No.
She read a lot, a massive amount.
Very many. Too many to count. So you form a hypothesis. You say to yourself, I think this word means a huge, immeasurable amount of time.
Then and only then do you actually check the dictionary.
And the dictionary says, having or seeming to have no end or limit. Your hypothesis was correct.
But the magic isn't in getting it right, is it?
No, the magic is in the friction. You've created a memory anchor. Because you did that mental lifting, because you paused and wondered, the word endless is now stuck to your brain with a much stronger glue than if you just glanced at a translation.
It's interesting because it forces you to slow down. You can't do this for 50 words in 10 minutes. It's physically impossible.
You can't, and you shouldn't. That's the quality part of the equation. You are selecting high-value words and giving them the attention they actually deserve.
Okay, so we've done our detective work. We've identified a high-value word. We've guessed the meaning. We've confirmed it. Now we move to strategy 2, which I think is where a lot of intermediate learners get stuck. This is grammar, forms, and the company words keep.
Yes. This is where we separate the casual learners from the serious speakers. The source makes a really provocative statement here. It says, knowing the definition of a word, just the translation, is only about 10% of the battle.
10% feels incredibly low. I mean, if I know gato means cat, don't I know the word? I can point at the animal and say the word.
You know the label, but you don't know the architecture. If you don't know how that word behaves in a sentence, you can't build with it. You're just sticking labels on things. You can't use it to express a complex thought.
The guide uses a really nuanced example to explain this, and I love this because it's something I think native speakers totally take for granted, the difference between forest and wood.
Oh, this is a classic stumbling block. Because in many languages, these might be the exact same word or used interchangeably. But in English, the grammar dictates the usage.
So let's break it down. Forest.
Forest is what we call a countable noun. You can have one forest. You can have two forests. It's a distinct countable entity. You can say, I got lost in a large forest.
Okay. Simple enough. But then we have wood.
Wood is trickier. It often refers to the material itself, the substance the tree is made of. In that context, it's uncountable. You wouldn't say, I bought 3 woods to build a table.
Right. That sounds really weird.
You'd say, I bought some wood or pieces of wood.
But, and here's where English gets really annoying. You can say, I went for a walk in the woods with an S.
Yes, and that's the specific nuance you have to study. When wood becomes the woods, it refers to a specific type of place, smaller than a forest, usually. If you just memorize forest equals trees and wood equals trees, you're going to make mistakes.
You might say, I walked in the wood, which sounds weirdly like you're shrinking yourself down and walking inside a plank of lumber.
Exactly. Or, I bought a forest to make a shelf, which implies you are a very wealthy landowner who just bought a national park.
Which is a great humble brag, but probably not what you meant. So the strategy here is to look beyond just the meaning. Is it countable? Is it plural?
And you have to look at the company the word keeps. This is a linguistic concept called collocations.
Collocations. That sounds a bit technical. Define that for us.
A collocation is just a fancy way of saying words that naturally sit together. It's about statistical probabilities in speech. For example, we say fast food. We don't say quick food. Why?
I honestly don't know. Quick food makes sense logically. It's food that is quick, but it sounds totally wrong.
It sounds wrong because native speakers just don't use that combination. That's a collocation. The source brings up the verb grow to illustrate this.
Grow seems simple enough. Plants grow, people grow.
It is, until you look at the prepositions. If you change the little word after grow, you change the entire meaning.
like grow up versus grow into.
Right. The source highlights grow into. The idea grew into a plan. That preposition into is doing a massive amount of heavy lifting there. It indicates transformation, one thing becoming another.
And then there are the adverbs. The source mentions grow quickly.
Yes, you rarely hear grow fastly. Even though fast and quick are synonyms, grow prefers the company of quickly. If you don't learn these pairings, your speech sounds broken.
Broken, that's a little harsh.
Well, technically understandable, maybe. If you said the tree grew fastly, I know what you mean. But I also know you weren't fluent. You're translating word for word from your native language. To sound fluent, you need to know which words are friends. You need to know the social network of the vocabulary.
I really liked the idiom example they included too. Highs and lows.
Ah, yes. Through the highs and lows of a career.
It's such a common phrase. It basically means good times and bad times.
It's what we call a binomial two words, joined by a conjunction that are almost always in that exact order. You wouldn't say the lows and highs.
I've had a week of lows and highs. Yeah, that sounds odd. It literally stops the rhythm of the sentence.
It sounds off. And notice the grammar, high and low, are usually adjectives, a high wall. But here, they are functioning as nouns, the highs.
So if you just learn the word high on a flashcard as an adjective, you'd never come up with that usage on your own.
Never. You have to learn the chunk. You have to learn the phrase as if it were a single vocabulary item.
So we've selected the word with our detective work. We've analyzed its architecture, its grammar, its collocations. Now we're at strategy 3. And this is the pivot to action. How do we get this stuff out of our brains and into our mouths?
This is where the fear sets in for a lot of people.
The fear of sounding stupid, the fear of making a mistake.
Right. But the guide is very clear. You have to bridge the gap between passive understanding, I know what that means when I read it, and active application. I can use that in this sentence right now.
And one of the techniques they suggest is shadowing. Now, I've heard this term thrown around a lot in language circles. What is it, really? Is it just repeating?
It's far more intense than just repeating. Shadowing is essentially a sophisticated form of mimicry. You listen to a piece of audio, maybe a native speaker saying that sentence about endless hours, and you repeat it immediately after them, almost simultaneously.
Like an echo.
Like an echo, but you're trying to match everything, not just the words. You're matching the speed, the intonation, the rhythm, the pauses, the emotion. You're trying to feel how the sentence physically feels in your mouth.
It's almost like acting. You're playing the role of a native speaker.
It is acting. You're building muscle memory. You're training your tongue and your jaw to move in the shapes that English requires, because often your mouth literally doesn't know how to make those shapes yet.
But the guide suggests going a step further than just parroting, right? It suggests sentence variation.
Yes. This is where it gets highly creative. Shadowing helps you get the sound right. Variation helps you get the usage right.
So take our friend Endless again.
The original sentence was, she spent endless hours reading. The exercise is to take that structure, keep the key word, but twist the context. Make it about you.
Okay. So I spent endless hours editing this deep dive audio.
Perfect. You've personalized it. Now, change the subject completely. Don't talk about time. Talk about something else.
We had endless fun at the beach.
Excellent. You've moved from hours to fun. You are testing the flexibility of the word. You're proving to your brain that endless isn't just glued to reading books. It's a tool you can use for work, for fun, for boredom.
And then the ultimate step dialogue integration.
The scariest step of all.
Actually trying to slip the word into a real conversation with a human being.
Intentionally integrating it. If you're chatting with a friend or a colleague, you make a mental goal. You say to yourself, I am going to use highs and lows in this conversation today.
Man, this project has really had its highs and lows.
Exactly. You force it into the wild.
But what if I force it too hard? What if I say, I had endless sandwiches for lunch, and everyone looks at me like I'm crazy?
Then you have achieved something massive.
Getting laughed at, that's the goal.
Data collection. The source explicitly states we need to completely reframe error. Making a mistake during this active application phase is not a failure. It's data. If you say endless sandwiches and someone corrects you or just looks confused, you learn the limits of that word instantly.
You learn where the word doesn't fit.
And you will remember that correction forever. It's much better to make the mistake and learn than to stay silent and never know. The embarrassment acts as a powerful highlighter for your memory.
So just embrace the awkwardness.
Embrace it. It's a mandatory part of the process. If you aren't making mistakes, you frankly aren't trying hard enough variations.
Okay, strategy 4. We've selected, analyzed, and applied. But we are human beings with human brains, and human brains are designed to forget things.
The forgetting curve.
It sounds like a horror movie title. How do we fight the forgetting curve? The guide calls this the system of review.
Right. The forgetting curve is well-documented science. If you learn something today and you don't review it, the memory decays rapidly. Within a few days, it's mostly gone. So you need a consistent review strategy.
But this isn't just look at the word every day for the rest of your life. That sounds completely exhausting.
No, that's highly inefficient. It suggests a staggered timeline. Review the word endless after one day. Just check, is it still there? Can I still use it? Then check it again after a week.
Spaced repetition.
Exactly. But here is the really cool part, and this ties back to the quality over quantity theme. The guide suggests a specific technique for review called the nonsense narrative.
I loved this part. It's all about combining concepts.
Yes. Don't just review word A, then word B, then word C in a boring list. Your brain will tune that out immediately. Instead, mix them up. Take the random words you learned this week and smash them together.
So let's say our words from this week were forest, endless, and highs and lows.
Instead of 3 flashcards, create one sentence, even if it's silly. Especially if it's silly.
The forest has endless paths with highs and lows.
Brilliant. The forest has endless paths with highs and lows. You have just linked 3 completely distinct memory pathways into one narrative chain.
It's like a little story.
It provides context, and context makes things sticky. By creating that sentence, you're practicing grammar, you're practicing vocabulary, and you're engaging your creativity.
It sounds almost poetic. The forest has endless paths. It sounds like the opening to a fantasy novel.
It does. And because it's a bit unusual, a bit creative, your brain holds on to it. It's so much harder to forget a weird story than a sterile list.
But, and this is a really big bit that we need to hit on, the source warns heavily about overload here. We can't do this deep analysis, this sentence twisting, this narrative building for 100 words at a time.
It's physically impossible. This brings us right back to the less is more rule. The expert advice in the guide is to limit your study session to just 5 to 10 words.
5 to 10 words, that feels almost too easy, like I'm not working hard enough.
It feels easy, but it allows for depth. If you try to do 50, you cannot do the detective work. You don't have time to check the collocations. You certainly can't do the sentence variations. You're just skimming.
So you end up with 50 vague notions versus 5 sharp tools.
Exactly. It's about return on investment. The ROI on 5 words learned deeply is infinitely higher than 50 words you kind of, sort of, maybe know.
It really changes the metric of success, doesn't it? It stops being, how many flashcards did I flip today? And starts being, how capable am I in a real conversation?
It completely takes the pressure off. It stops feeling like cramming for a final exam and starts feeling like cultivation, like gardening. You're planting these words and making sure they actually take root in the soil before you just dump the next batch on top.
So let's recap the journey here, because we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Let's do it.
It starts with selection, being picky, using that contextual detective work to guess the meaning before we run to the dictionary.
Then moving to structure, learning the grammar. Is it a countable noun? What are the collocations? What company does the word actually keep?
Then active application, shadowing native speakers to get the rhythm, twisting sentences to test the flexibility, and actually using the words in real life, even if we make a fool of ourselves.
And finally, the system of review. Fighting that forgetting curve, not with rote memorization, but by combining words into narratives. All while keeping the volume low, 5 to 10 words, so we don't burn out.
It feels like a sustainable system, something you could actually do every day without hating the process.
It is. And the source reminds us that patience is absolutely essential. You need to track your successes differently now. Don't track the list length. Track those moments in a meeting where you use a new word without hesitating. That is the real win.
That's the ultimate goal, to speak without that static.
And if I can leave the listener with a final thought, a bit of a challenge to take away.
Nice, go for it.
I want you to imagine something. Imagine if you stopped trying to learn 10 new words a day. Just stop. Tear up the vocabulary list. And instead, focus on mastering just 1 word a day.
Just one.
Just 1 single word. But master it so deeply. Know its nouns, its verbs, its idioms, its prepositions, that you could use it in 5 completely different grammatical forms effortlessly. If you did that for just one word a day, how much more fluent would you sound in a month compared to right now?
That is a very powerful question. One word, fully master, it really changes the whole game.
It changes everything about how you approach language.
Well, there you have it. That is your challenge for the day. Go find your endless opportunities. Go find that one word and truly own it. Thanks for diving in with us.
Happy learning, everyone.